All right, welcome back to Edgework on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on YouTube as Edgework there. Make sure to go over there, subscribe. You can like this stream, and if you want to comment in real time, you can do so on the YouTube channel. Unfortunately, we don't see it on Twitter in real time, but if you do want to follow us on Twitter to know when we are going live, you can do so by following the Edgework Show on Twitter. You can also track all the picks that are given out on this show in real time and throughout the course of the season. Right now, we are up 22 units on the season on Edgework. You can find that on the BetStamp app in the Find Betters section as Edgework there. We get Andy back today. I mean, if you're following along...
That's why you're up 22 units. I was off. I was gone.
Exactly. Andy goes away, wins some bets, get the account up quickly, and now it'll start to taper off as he returns here. But if people notice the thumbnail for this video, the stream that's on right now, you notice that I included the photo of Connor Bedard and the phrase that I'm going.
We're not talking about Connor Bedard right now. That was a team win. That was a team win, Zach. We're not talking about an individual right now. Okay, we went over this with Connor Bedard. He doesn't want to talk about himself. We're not going to talk about him. Okay, Zach, got it?
All right, my bad. So we'll stay away from Connor Bedard specifically, but I do have a question for you guys. I'm curious because after the Canada game last night, they do have the interview that Andy's referring to where he goes up there and says, "Oh, we're not talking about me. This is the team win." But after the fact, it's obviously the conversation is Connor Bedard is a generational talent. Now, Connor Bedard is not the first player to be considered a generational talent, but recently the word generational in terms of players that are coming up, prospects that are coming up, has been thrown out there quite frequently, quite loosely. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. We'll go roundtable discussion on this one. But Rob, what is a generational talent, and is the word generational being thrown around too often to describe these prospects coming up right now?
I think to the latter question, yes. In terms of how I would define a generational talent, it's somebody who's going to end up like basically a can't-miss prospect at the NHL level that's going to end up as a superstar. That's purely how I see it. Connor McDavid, generational talent, right? When he was coming up, and that proved to be the case as he went into the NHL. I'm not like an advanced scout in junior. I can't say that I've watched a ton of Connor Bedard other than what I've heard about him. But in watching this tournament, it's very, very clear that he is by far the best player on the ice. He jumps over the boards, Canada gets possession, it's going to be in the offensive zone for the entirety of when he's on the ice. And I was super impressed with him in this tournament. Not only goal scoring, just everything about him. Passing ability, the cross-ice pass a couple games ago against the U.S., he is absurdly good. So I don't know, but seems to me if I was a team in the NHL right now that had a chance to tank to get that first overall pick, I would be doing whatever I could to be tanking. And the San Jose Sharks, as Andy points to his hat. Yeah,
yeah, and Alex with the Blackhawks jersey right now. Yeah.
You should have wore your Maple Leafs hat.
No. Here, let's pump the brakes here for a second.
Far from that. Yeah. Come on.
I just laughed last night because the first thing I saw, I wasn't watching the Leafs game last night, but I saw Myrtle tweet out. He's always good for some I don't know, foolish tweets, but he tweeted out that we're 10 minutes in and Seattle doesn't have a shot yet. And then I looked at the score, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes later, and I was like, well, what's happening here?
Any Leafs fan could tell you that is usually the case.
Yeah.
Dominate early, get blown out in the game. But Toronto media not too happy today. The return of Morgan Riley apparently has set them back.
It's the downfall of the Leafs. That's what's going to hold them back.
I just wanted to touch on Bedard. I mean, as far as I think I echo what you and Rob said. The generational tag gets thrown around a lot. But I think, the facts kind of speak for themselves. Even if you haven't watched Bedard play, he's only, the seventh player to be granted exceptional status into the CHL. He's the first ever player in the WHL to be granted that status. So, I mean, I think that says it all right there, right? I mean, he's being described as maybe the best best scorer, best pure shooter that scouts have ever saw. And scouts they get lots of things wrong, but I think there's a pretty strong consensus opinion on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then when you hear the quote last night, which you referenced, Andy, at the beginning of the show, where he talked, this isn't about me. This is a team win. Those are the kind of things that GMs in the NHL love to hear. They want to, this guy could have the biggest head in the world right now, and it would be warranted because he is a superstar in the making. But the fact that he's still a team player right now and has that mentality to be this young and be this, have this kind of poise and just it's a great fit right now. I mean, I saw there's a bunch
I still
of
think
teams.
he was way too aggressive. I was like, dude, chill the hell out, man.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, relax. You just won. Like, chill out. I know I get the point you're trying to make, but like, relax.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
we're not talking about me right now. We're not talking. Like, it's like, okay, man. Like,
Yeah, it was almost
have a cigarette, dude.
almost a Richard Sherman moment, the way he was, the intensity that he brought with that one. But yeah, to have that kind of maturity though, and like I said, in due time he will blossom once he gets into the league. But he just seems to be a great fit. Like I said, that generational talent phrase is thrown out way too much. But I'm seeing the same things that I saw from him that I saw out of Sidney Crosby, out of Patrick Kane, out of Connor McDavid. Those are the generational talent types, and those are the kind of player that he seems to be moving forward.
Yeah, and before we get into some other stuff, I just want to quickly shout out the chat yesterday that was in watching Alex and I. Don Schultz came in. He was liked Saros yesterday to steal a win. Pitched that as a bet.
Never did he ever steal a win.
Yeah, could you have called that any better? I mean, like if your handicap was Saros is going to steal this game,
it was. It quite literally
hey,
was.
Nashville's a good team and they're going to beat Carolina, like because that's not what happened. It was all Saros. That's it. I mean, good job, Don. Good job.
No, quite literally, Don came in and said to Alex, "I think Saros will steal this one tonight against Carolina." Like thoughts, and we talked about it.
And I was like, Kochetkov might be back, and then I doubt he lays another egg, and then all of a sudden Saros goes to set the record. So
Yeah, but there you go. There's the chat participating in that.
Why don't we talk about the Predators while we're on this subject? Because they've been on a little bit of a run lately. 6 out of their last 8 games, they scored at least 4 goals, but they still grade out as one of the worst offensive teams in hockey. And I don't think I would kind of lean towards this being a bit of an aberration, probably more than anything. I think they played Montreal. Who else? I'm trying to kind of losing it right now, but they've had some weaker opponents that they should have been expected to put goals up on. Capitals,
the Ducks, the Habs.
Yeah, the Ducks. That was one.
The Hawks.
Worst defensive team in modern history, I guess. The Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nashville. I mean, definitely maybe some. There's some good things about this team, but a lot of their. A lot of their wins have come on the back of Saros. Lankinen doesn't start enough to really get a feel for what he is. I mean, he's been good this year, but really small sample, 8 games. Lindgren and Kemper started last night. He's been really good for Washington, but Lindgren's been great. And combined, Kemper and Lindgren have allowed 2 or fewer goals in the majority of their last 15 games. I think 11 of their last 15 games. So Washington, I think, one of the maybe the most underrated defensive team in the league, and this is dating back earlier than this season. They were a great defensive team last year too, and their offense is getting the job done. They've scored 4 or more goals in 11 of their last 14 games, and that's kind of bad news for Nashville today. And we've also got a pretty strong possibility, I think, Rob will touch on this too, that we see Nicholas Backstrom and or Tom Wilson. I think we'll only see one of them today, but Nick Dowd is back, and like I said, Lindgren has been really strong for the Caps. So I like Washington today at minus 155 up to minus 160. I think there's enough upside there to justify betting on them right now, and I did that. So, Pinnacle's moved to minus 165.
Nice 165. Yeah. I don't know if that was us or if it happened pre-show, but I looked pre-show as well, and we were sitting at minus 155. But yeah, you bring up good points, Andy. Like, to me, Nashville is still, like, I'll call it PDOing their way to success right now. Like, they're not an impressive team whenever I watch them. Most of it is on the backs of Saros, and we can talk about Lankin, and like Lankin has played well this year, but he's still a huge downgrade from Saros. Like, this is what people don't realize, right? When you're used to getting that, when you have a guy, what Saros now goal saved above expected, it's something absurd. I was looking at yesterday, it's like 20 or whatever. And when you downgrade to Lankinen, I think that's like a pretty big downgrade, even though you have a quality backup. I think Washington's going to take it to them tonight. And then, you also look at the fact that the game that they played last night in Carolina, right? Like, they're just in defensive mode, skating. Like, that was as far as back-to-back's concerned, it's pretty difficult to follow Carolina and then play a game the next day, just because of the amount of forecheck that Carolina has altogether. So I think this is a short price as well. There is upside with exactly what Andy said in the return of a Wilson or Backstrom. But like, you could play this in honestly any derivative that you want to. I personally don't mind laying minus 165 on a game if I make the game minus 180 or minus 185, but you could play the puck line, you could play the regulation line. I think any derivative of Washington is a good bet tonight.
And if I could jump in again here. Alex, do you have something to add to that?
Sorry? No. You can jump in. So.
Just because Rob mentioned something, I don't mind laying minus 165. I think one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about being in the pick content business or whatever.
Put yourself out there, Andy.
Is
the trolls?
Yeah, no, but is the fact that you have to pander and cater to people that have no tolerance for any sort of risk when it comes to favorites. And I've gotten flack. My last two plays were minus 200 favorites. The first one lost. It was the first minus 200 favorite. In fact, it was the first game that I lost this season where my odds were minus 190 or better. I was 7-0 going into the game that I bet on, where I bet Dallas to beat Anaheim a couple of nights ago.
Rob, he was 7-0 in his last 7.
No,
John.
What
that means
John Gibson,
7-1 in your last 8.
Totally, yeah. So John Gibson, most impressive, maybe the most impressive goaltending performance of the season against the Stars. Saved 3.2 goals above expected. But then I come back the next night and I bet the Capitals at minus 195, around that area, minus 200, and they win easily, pretty easily, I guess. But, still got some flack for laying a big favorite again. I just want to point out that if all you have done for the last 3 NHL seasons, this season, the season, and the 2 seasons before, is lay minus 200 favorites, specifically on the road, rest it, you'd be rich. You would be like that. It's one of the most profitable strategies. You're talking about games that have around a 68 implied win probability that are hitting at an almost 75% win probability over the course of like 250, 300 picks. There's no argument to be made here. Like, if you think you have an edge on one of these games, bet it and don't worry about the price. I mean, it is what it is. Like, if I'd be down, I'm not having a great season, I'd be down way more if I didn't bet any minus 200 favorites. Like,
yeah, and that's a good point. Although, to play slight devil's advocate to what you're saying, it's a good thing that the casual bettor kind of maybe turns their stomach a little bit when they see a high favorite, because you shouldn't just be blindly jumping and playing chalk every night. But like you said, at the same time, you have to assess the line. It's no different than in football or basketball. We see a team laying 6 when we think they should be laying double digits. It's you have to have that same mentality. I think it's a little harder to digest for some of the more recreational players when they see a minus 180 or minus 200.
And those same players a lot of the time will say, "Oh, like I like that team, but I'm gonna take the puck line instead." It's like, dude, it's the same thing. If you're you're laying 1.5 goals instead of minus 200. It's the same thing. Like, just I mean, I don't know. People don't get it. That's fine. And but I just hate trying to pander to that and make picks. I honestly don't give out as many bets as I make personally, because a lot of those, like a lot of favorite bets and stuff. So I'm kind of looking for the ones that I feel people can kind of get behind. But in general, every day I'm betting favorites almost every day of the week throughout this NHL season, bigger favorites, and they've been some of my better plays this season. So I don't know. It's maybe I should stop pandering to people and stop caring what about their risk tolerance, right? Like,
do what works.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I think it's about just like being authentic, right? And like, if I'm gonna bet something that's minus 230, then I'll give it out as minus 230. Like, I don't care. I think that it just, value is value, right? And people have different risk thresholds. And my friends, for example, they never want to lay a big price on a hockey bet. They don't want to lay minus 300. Like, the game is way too random. I don't want to lay minus 300. I'd rather just take the
I don't either.
1.5, minus 125. And I get it. But like, for me, my risk tolerance is maybe a little bit higher. If I see value on something, I'll hit it. Somebody in the chat said I once laid minus 5,000. Sure. I mean, if you made the thing like minus 50,000, then
he's a bad man.
Right?
No, but as far as minus 300, I'm not really looking to play minus 300. I'm just saying there are some very specific, like, without getting into it too much, because it would take a little bit longer to really get into it. But there are there are a group of teams. You can say Anaheim, Chicago, Columbus, and we can go through like those bottom kind of barrel teams have virtually no home ice advantage. And if they do have a home ice advantage, it's very small. It's really indiscreet. And they aren't priced like that. They are priced as if they have some sort of home ice advantage. And as a result, you get a lot of games throughout the season where you get some, maybe not subpar or not mediocre teams, but closer to average than elite kind of teams that are coming in here, that, specifically teams with good offenses that come in and they destroy these teams on a regular basis. And it's on their home ice. They're expected to get more wins than they do, and they don't. And it hasn't really been corrected in the market. That's one thing that I've noticed over the last few years. So I think you really have to take a hard look at that.
All right. Before we get into the next game here, I want to know something that happened the other day. I saw both Andy and Rob talking about it. I was watching the Canada game, so I didn't catch it in real time. I basically was trying to follow along with it on Twitter, and that was the goaltending situation in Tampa. Rob, what went down before the Tampa Bay game in net with their goaltenders the other night?
So I pay someone to cover NHL news for me, right? And there's a chat box, and whenever he sees something of value, he's going to say, like, go on this now, go now. Halak in net, Rangers, go now, right? Downgrade from Shesterkin. This guy probably had a stroke on that night. With the amount, he's like, I have no idea who's in net for Tampa, and he was just going back and forth. It's like, it's Elliott, go now. Like, no, wait a second, could be Vasilevsky, he's on the ice. And like, I'm trying to filter through Twitter as well and figure out what's going on here. There's conflicting reports, and like, I don't want to say that people were just taking guesses, but it almost felt like the beat reporters for that game were just taking guesses as to who was going to be on the ice. And Andy, you're muted. Thank God you're muted. And
I would say 100%, 100%. Yeah, they're taking guesses.
Yes. So we had a period of time where the market was just bouncing back and forth on reports of different goalies starting for the game. And I mean, listen, sometimes when that happens, it can work in your favor as a bettor, but sometimes it's just really, really annoying. And in this case, it was really, really annoying. I mean, I'm not pining for some sort of situation where teams like have to announce their goalie or anything, but if you're going to put something out there, like as a beat reporter at the game, like, be pretty sure that what you're putting out there is accurate information. Like, just don't guess at what's going on. So I know you had probably a different experience or similar experience, I think, Andy. Maybe me and you were some of the few people paying attention to what was going on there, but I haven't seen anything like that in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I almost got by what went on there because it was so close to game time that you kind of don't expect the mistakes to happen in that way. Like, you're almost expecting it's warm up time. If somebody's tweeting out about starting goaltenders, that means they've either seen a roster or they've watched this goaltender lead the team onto the ice. But only one reporter out of there was three main kind of players in this little debacle here. Eduardo Encina of the Tampa Bay Times. I forget the gentleman's name from his name is Dane. I forget his last name, but anyways, he's from the Pioneer Press, I think, in Minnesota. And the third person was Lightning Insider on Twitter, kind of like a well-known beat writer, Lightning Insider for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And so what happened there was the gentleman from Minnesota tweeted out that it was going to be Gustafsson for the Wild and the great Andrei Vasilevsky for the Lightning, and that kind of sent everything into a frenzy. But at the exact same time, we're talking like 9:14 Eastern, the exact same time, Encina from the Tampa Bay Times, who was actually at the game, which I assume that the fella from Minnesota was too, but this is a Lightning reporter who is actually at the game. He tweets out that Brian Elliott, who started in Chicago the night before, is leading the Lightning onto the ice. And then 10 minutes later, the Lightning insider comes in and says, despite the confusion, it is going to be Vasilevsky tonight, according to what I'm told. But he wasn't at the game. He wasn't in Minnesota. And then the other gentleman from Tampa Bay comes back and kind of, just reasserts everything. Well, Elliott's taking shots in line rushes. He led the team out, and now he's listed as the starter on the roster report. So there was like a lot of things you could look for in terms of kind of distinguishing good reporting from bad. The gentleman from Minnesota, he didn't provide any evidence. The other guy from Tampa Bay didn't provide any hard evidence, just some unnamed sources. There was only one beat reporter that was actually at the game that was providing hard evidence, and that was Eduardo Encina with the Tampa Bay Times. So I think it was like kind of a masterclass on how it should be done with integrity. And if you are going to guess, as the gentleman from Minnesota later confirmed, he was just acting on a hunch that it was going to be Vasilevsky because Tampa Bay did play the night before. We all thought it was going to be Vasilevsky. So I mean, like you've got to state that, say like I'm just guessing here, or this is a hunch. I think Vasilevsky's going to start, but nothing has been confirmed. I don't know why that's so hard. I don't know if it's a pride thing. I don't know if it's got to be first, don't care about being right thing, but it's really costly to people. They're like, I mean, at that time of the day, especially, like there could be some huge bets getting put down on NHL hockey.
Do you think he puts his email out there so people could send him invoices for their losses, their losses, if that's the case? Because it's quite a different. Like it's not. The thing is, like Vasilevsky to Elliott is one of the massive differences.
Yeah, it's an extreme case.
So, I honestly, I've been betting hockey for a long time. You get misinformation every now and then, or beat writer makes a mistake. Yeah. I've never quite experienced something like that where literally nobody could confirm who was going to be in net. Like no one could confirm who was going to be in net. And Vasilevsky was also on the ice. He was just sick
just barely moving. There was one video of he was just standing there. He wasn't doing anything. But
we're trying to get in arena feeds so that we can watch. And literally, we've done this before, where we can watch the shoot around, right? Just to see what the number of the goalie is that's in net. And you can kind of go off of that. But what a disaster.
I legitimately think though that there is like a pride thing out there amongst beat writers when they can't go on the road with the team for whatever reason. They want to act like they're there at the arena even though they're not, and I think it's a problem. I mean, if your competitor is at the arena, if a gentleman, somebody, a woman or a man from another newspaper or another media outlet is at the arena, just parrot the information. Like, I mean, if everybody did that, everybody would get some love sometimes, right? As far as, the reporting goes, but it's just a starting goaltender. It's like, get it right. That's the main thing. Like, we're the only ones, gamblers, DFS players, we're the only ones that care about this. Nobody else cares about this.
Yeah.
And Andy, you made a perfect point too, because you mentioned about, other newspapers and other writers. Like I said, the St. Paul Pioneer Press, and then there's the Minneapolis Star Tribune, and oftentimes this happens not just with the Wild, but with other sports there too. So it's a good point to note, and this is exactly why I've been betting hockey 11 years now, and probably for the last 6 of them, I've been saying that books should list goaltenders the same way they list pitchers in baseball.
Let's get out of here.
You should have the option.
I quit. I'm gone.
Goalies or action. I don't know. It's a headache. Obviously, the books don't do that because there's like the technology is so bad on a lot of them that to integrate something like that would just be so much work. And it's hockey, and not enough people care. But yeah, I mean, you give people an option, or at least they did. A lot of books have switched for baseball, but if you're going to give a starting pitcher's option or an action option, you could do the same because the goalie is that impactful on the game, right?
Yeah. Give people the option that want to bet like that, but I wouldn't want that to be the only option.
Agreed. Yes.
And
I
you
would
know,
action my bet.
somebody brought up when I tweet. So if you want to get a really real summary of the timeline of events of what happened on Twitter the other night, I did kind of write a story about it on at vcent.com that you can check out, free to read. But somebody had commented like, oh, they should do what they do in the Premier League. I think he said the Premier League, which is, I guess, they have to announce the starters and the goalies an hour before the game. I thought about that a bit, and like, I mean, if they were going to do something, I think that would be that would be the maximum time I would want. I wouldn't want them to do it in the morning or earlier in the day. If they go that way, I would, yeah, okay, an hour before the game, because that still leaves a lot of the room for chaos throughout the day and whatnot that I think is still valuable to us.
Well, there are game sheets for hockey, right, that they have to submit, that the coach has to fill out and submit. They should just make those public at a certain time, even if it's half hour before the game. This is the game sheet, right? Here's the rosters of the teams, like half hour before the game, and that would really simplify it. And here's our designate your starting goalie with a checkbox or whatever, and that's it. Yeah,
I mean, for a lot of the casual bettors that really don't care about the odds and whatnot, and only want to have their, kind of the right comfort level to make bets, which a lot of the times it has to do with who's in goal and whatnot. But that would fix it for them, because a lot of them are just jumping in before the game starts anyways and placing their bets. So
exactly.
All right, let's get to some of the bets here. Actually, let's look at that Tampa-Winnipeg game. Unknown as of right now who will be in net. There's nobody confirmed, so hopefully there's no Twitter goalie carousel for tonight. But looked like Vasilevsky and Hellebuck, the last I was seeing, is the two guys that were going there.
I'm going to guess he had poopy pants or something, man. Like, I don't know, honestly. Like, he must have had the shits, because, like, he didn't...
The Paul Pierce.
They put him on the bench, so, like, he couldn't have been sick, like, contagiously, right? So... He must have been,
Stomach flu seems to be going around, because Gustafsson
I guess
that game with a couple of minutes left to throw up.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
But looks like this Winnipeg team here, they're on a 3-game win streak. It looks like they're going to be getting Ehlers, Perfetti, and Wheeler coming back here. Rob, what do you like in the Winnipeg-Tampa game as of right now?
So I tend to try to wear a hat that, is on the same side of the way that I would be betting the game. And it would be Winnipeg or nothing for me. You obviously have the upside in the returning players and Ehlers, Wheeler. As it's tough for me to price. I mean, Winnipeg to me has been like a team that I was not high on going into the year. And then they started off really hot, getting great goaltending. Then they suffer these injuries. And I'm like, okay, here we're going to see the wheels fall off of the Jets. And it didn't happen. They just continued to play well over the course of that stretch. I'm not a big fan, though, of listen, I mean, ultimately, I think there's value in the Winnipeg side here, but I don't like betting against Vasilevsky. Let me make that explicitly clear. And unless I feel like I'm getting like a little bit more value than normal, I'm a little bit gun shy or hesitant to pull the trigger on these types of games. But I think this should be a true pick 'em. I have it very close to 50-50. If who I think is going to be in the Jets lineup is in there, probably will end up on the Winnipeg Jets here, but might as well just wait for confirmation at this point.
Can you pull up the line history, Zach, for that game?
Yes, I can.
So like I'm in almost kind of total agreement with Rob. I think the Jets should be priced around -103. I think I had, if they have the lineup that they ran at practice yesterday. But what's the movement like? How has this game moved throughout the morning? Like, where were the Jets an hour or 2 hours ago?
I mean, honestly, a little.
Oh, they were at around +108 for a little bit, but that didn't last very long. I think if you look at some of the more like the rec books, you don't have to, but I'm just saying, I think if you looked at some of the rec books, you would have saw some +115s, +110s out there. But yeah, so I mean, a lot of the value has been kind of snatched up. There is that anticipation that they will get those 3 players back, and obviously Ehlers, I think he only played 2 games this season, so this is a huge boost for the Jets to get him and Wheeler back, I think, ahead of schedule a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's Winnipeg or nothing here, but I don't like betting against Vasilevsky either, and I especially don't like doing so if I feel that I've kind of missed the best of it, right? So poopy pants season. Drinking Red Bulls at 9 a.m. is poopy pants season.
And Ryan
You see
Johnson.
me? I gotta like squeeze every once in a while.
That's why Andy goes off camera for a minute every now and then.
Yeah, he's got the squint
Check
face
me
going
undies.
on. Ryan Johnson, you're saying Tampa Bay team total under 3.5. That's his look there for tonight.
The thing that I think is interesting about this matchup, because obviously when you look at it, you automatically think, okay, well, this could be an absolute goalie duel with Vasilevsky and Hellebuck. But if you look back the last 3 meetings, the team that's won has scored 7 goals. So, the over 5-0 and 1 in the last 6 meetings, it's one of those things. It's kind of like with Tampa Bay and Toronto.
Unfamiliar opponents.
Yeah, but just one of those things where you just assume something's going to happen. Like Tampa Bay, Toronto, for example, it was like the lines were like 7 for like a bunch of the matchups, and then they end up going like 3-2 finals. So the same thing here. You just automatically kind of gut look and see, okay, Tampa Bay, Winnipeg is probably going to go under at 6. More than likely might fly over. So that might be the way I'd lean.
Yeah, I agree with Alex. Better to look at going against conventional wisdom in these situations because, you like it's almost like betting yes to a run scored in the first inning on when there's a pitcher's duel, right? Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yep.
No.
All right, let's look at another game here. 2 teams that are in the running for Connor Bedard, the generational talent, and they're salivating after the interview last night that Andy was not the biggest fan of. But Alex is rocking the Alex is rocking the jersey right now for them. Alex, what do you like in this Hawks-Arizona game tonight?
This has the same feel as when the Hawks were at home playing Columbus the other night. 2 bad teams on a Friday night, and it just feels like, especially when you got Arizona that's kind of been on the road for a while. I mean, they're a road-weary team, right? They've gotten half their road games on the season out of the way, it seems like. I think this is a good spot here for the Hawks. Not crazy about laying a price here. That was a plus price they got at home and then win against Columbus. But I do think the Hawks can take care of business at home tonight. And like you mentioned, these are 2 teams that are tanking. This is typical Hawks fashion, and they should be losing this game. They end up winning it 4-2. So that's kind of that's a slight part of the handicap. But I really do think that the Hawks, they've been competitive in a lot of these losses. It's just that the blue line's been terrible and the goaltending's been shaky. Kind of do want to see if it's going to be Alex Stalock instead of Peter Mrazek. Much rather back Stalock. Mrazek's movement has just been awful. He looks like he's still injured, to be honest. When his lateral movement's non-existent almost. So that's kind of the one caveat I had. But I still do think that Anaheim kind of plays this one a little slow. Or I'm sorry, Arizona plays this one a little slow. I like Chicago here on the money.
Yeah, we might get the barn burner here.
It should be what? What's his name? Why? Oh my God! I hate when this happens.
I have no idea what you're.
Yeah, I don't
fried.
even know
when I'm too fried to remember basic things. God damn it! What's the backup's name in Arizona?
Connor Ingram.
Connor Ingram.
That's his name. Connor. We've been talking about Connor so much, and I can't remember the worst one. But yeah, I'm worried about the Coyotes because if you look at, I know Vezmelka probably won't play tonight, but if you look at his recent performance, he was one of the best goalies in the NHL for a large portion of the season, and at least by goals saved above expected. But you look at his recent performances, and I mean the Coyotes can't give him any help as far as keep defensively, right? And it's so they might really go on a downturn here if he falls apart.
Agreed. And to Alex's point as well, if we get Ingram and Mrazek, I think over 6.5 at plus money is a definite look because that's going to be, if you have a kid that's a goaltender, that's like the game you make them watch and say, don't do this stuff. Don't do the stuff that these guys are doing.
Yeah. All right. Rob, I was also looking at the Islanders Calgary Flames game here tonight. It is a big price on Calgary, but we're talking about how we're not afraid of these big prices. Are you afraid of this big price on Calgary here tonight against the Islanders?
So I'm looking at the Islanders. Full transparency to the audience. I have not bet the Islanders yet at plus 190. My issue is that Varlamov hasn't made a start since December 17th. And I'm not a huge fan of backing these goalies in their first game back. There tends to be a little bit of rust. This is supported by numbers as well. This isn't narrative based. You get a goalie off an extended layoff coming back. They tend not to be up to the level that they were previously in that first start. However, Calgary, I've found, has just been overpriced for a long time, and they are playing better. They're kind of turning their season around now. But Jacob Markstrom in particular, he could have a bad game at any point with the way that he's been playing so far this season. And I think there's a valuable bet on the Islanders to be made here. I probably would go like a smaller unit play than normal because of the uncertainty with the Varlamov situation off of a long layoff. But I don't think Calgary's deserving of these price tags yet. No one in the West really is, except for Dallas. And even then they lose to Anaheim as like big favorites. So like, I don't think that there's that much discrepancy. And then I talked about this a couple weeks ago when I was on Edgework, but you have your East-West matchup, which, again, one conference is just so much better than the other, in my opinion. And they play each other so infrequently that I don't think that this is a thing that the market has caught up to yet. But I don't see that much separating these two teams. I'm not even a huge Islanders fan. So, give me the plus 190.
You're not a huge Islanders fan? Really?
I mean, come on.
When
they mock John Tavares in his first game back there, get banned, Islanders fans. Bunch of
I'm just saying that because like I'm sure you're on record as saying that Islanders fans are the worst human beings on the planet.
Well, I've gone through that with probably at least 6 NHL fan bases over time.
True enough. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in agreeing. I agree with Rob, but like Calgary, I mean, if they were priced like 20 cents lower on average in every single game, I would bet on them in every single game. But they are, just regularly playing close, tight games that, you worry about them in because they can't seem to score any goals. And the Islanders have good goaltending. I mean, you're probably looking at another 3-2 game here, right? Like it's the kind of hockey that the Flames have been playing, and they're a frustrating team. I think they're the worst. They're like, as far as a team that I don't want to bet against, but I don't want to bet on. It's the Calgary Flames, right? Like they're just right in the middle of like being not really attractive in any way.
So there's always like a team every year where their expected goals numbers look really good, and they're just never able to catch up to that level of performance. And like, to me, it's Calgary this year. Like, that's the team where, okay, on paper, people just keep wanting to bet them because they're like, oh, it has to turn. Their expected goals is this and that. Remember those years of like 3-4 years ago with Carolina where they just like outshot everyone like 45-20 every game, but they couldn't score a goal, and they like did, that reminds me of Calgary now.
It's like the Ottawa Senators too. The Senators are another team right now that, like, I mean, I think you look at Brady Tkachuk. He leads the NHL in a lot of the offensive shot generation kind of categories, but he doesn't score enough. Relative to what he should. He clearly has lacks shooting talent or finishing talent because it's a pretty big sample size here, and he kind of sums up what the Ottawa Senators are about, and that's underperforming on offense, even though they generate a ton of shots.
I also think that, sorry to interrupt, Zach, we can move on, but I also think that there's a chance Vladar gets a start here as well. I think I'm not projecting Markstrom as like a 90% tonight. I think I have him closer to 75%. So that would be a little bit more upside in the Islanders as well.
Well, Kyle Estrada asking here, Islanders puck line, is that something you would look at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing like minus 140 range now. I don't, basically minus 145. That's kind of right on the edge of what I would make it. I honestly just don't mind taking a shot on these big underdogs, plus 190. I'd rather the money line, but...
Don't be afraid of the plus sign, Rob. Don't be afraid of the plus sign.
Hey, Edgework is hitting underdog winners, man. Johnny Tavares, plus 205 yesterday. The St. Louis Blues, we're banging away on these underdogs.
Yeah. All right. Final game of the night we'll get to here. We have a bunch of bets in this one from all of us. So here, San Jose, Anaheim. Right now, as it stands, San Jose minus 133. I mean, that's a little off market there, but you can find them kind of around minus 140-ish in that range, and Anaheim plus 130. Rob, we'll start with you. What are you looking at in this game between the Sharks and the Ducks? Andy's favorite team, the San Jose Sharks.
I'm looking at Kaapo Kähkönen, who's played 15 games this year and has a minus 14.95 goals saved above expected. I think that's almost impossible to put together numbers like that. Like, it's so off the charts bad that it almost feels fake. Like, I had to do a double take to make sure it was the right number. I'm looking at the plus money over 6.5 in this game. We already talked about how the Ducks themselves are like, they give up 4 goals per game. They're dead last in the league. They can't defend anything. Horrendous defensive team. Now, they struggle to score, so you have to take that into account as well. But going up against a goalie in Kähkönen, who I think is, like, obviously the numbers stating extremely bad, I think this is mispriced. I honestly expected over 6.5 at like minus 115 or so. Getting the plus money there, I think, is a pretty solid bet. And these teams, listen, there are like the styles make matchups in the NHL as well. I think there's some credence to that. I don't go overboard with it. But if you look at the recent meetings between these two teams, there's some pretty high scoring affairs in there.
Barn burners, would you say?
I mean, if it was 2 different teams, I'd call this game, like, I'd call those barn burners, but I don't think it's fair to call Sharks, Ducks a barn burner in any capacity. But yeah, I like the over in this game at 6.5.
Listen, Todd, keep your picks to yourself, buddy. You're not on this show.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
Toddy props back to Tuesday, buddy.
Yeah, the Ducks. I mean, let's forget about the goals that they allow. No team, like, so Evolving Hockey has data, like shot data all the way back to 2007, 2008. I'm going to count really quick. I think that's 16 seasons. And no team has allowed more shots on a per 60-minute basis than the Anaheim Ducks. And outside of the Blue Jackets, who they're kind of like trading with every couple of days, nobody's allowed more goals. This is a bad hockey. Rob said, like, a historically bad defensive team. They will, probably allow some goals to that. I mean, they're coming off a shutout in which John Gibson saved 3.2 goals above expected. Easily one of the best goaltending performances you'll see all season long. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come, because I just want to see this Anaheim Ducks team keep losing. But I like Timo Meier to score a goal. Todd's betting him over 4.5 shots. I don't think it's out of the question to see this guy get somewhere between 6 and 10 shots today. Like, Anaheim is a black hole where offenses go to just generate shots for all eternity. Like, and Timo Meier is probably going to take advantage of that, right? So,
yep, like that.
Plus 115, not the most attractive bet, but as far as action goes, I think it's a fun bet to make tonight. He's going to have plenty of opportunities.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just rolling with the same thing I've been rolling with for the last couple of weeks. I'm going with the first period over. Sharks are 11-2 last 13 of the first period over. I did not play it last game because they're playing against Chicago, a team that's notorious for first period unders this season. But hopping right back on that, because you mentioned these have been high scoring affairs. These are two teams that, I mean, they're awful to watch, but they don't like each other. Those California teams all have a rivalry amongst one another.
And maybe they'll wear the new jerseys, right? And that'll make it a little bit easier on the eyes.
Maybe that would be nice. That would be nice. But I think we see scoring here early and often in here. So I laid the $1.40 with 1.5 in the first period.
And I just did want to mention that Myers has been an absolute menace. He's scored 8 goals in his last 11 games here. So, he's coming in pretty hot to this game.
Yeah, he's gonna look real nice alongside John Tavares and Mitch Marner.
I will lose my shit. I wanted Hurdle to the Bruins, man, but it didn't happen. But Hampus Lindholm's been a pretty good addition.
Yes, he has been.
Yeah, well, with Jake DeBrusk out there, they might have to go and pull a little Tampa Bay LTIR, add some people at the deadline. Can add some big money players there with him out.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying.
Exactly. I think that about does it for today's show. Are there any other best bets out there that you guys wanted to give? Oh my God, Andy, before we headed off, or anything else? Andy, also, I want to congratulate you and also thank you, because you in 2022, it was the early front runner for Father of the Year was my dad, and then we started getting inside info that Andy was actively starting to up his stock in it, and you closed out 2022 very strong, missing the final show of the year, putting your kids' health first. So
Yes.
congratulations to you, and thank you for helping me cash that. I threw a little money at it at the end there.
You had to go to the
take the big
dentist.
underdog.
What if the reason you had to go to the dentist was me, though, right? Like, I mean,
You eat your cereal. You eat your sugars and cereal before bed.
All right,
child
fair
abuse
enough.
is funny. I'm just joking.
Andy, there was I can't remember the story, Andy. You did have like a Father of the Year tweet a couple years back, I think. I can't. Do you?
Oh,
remember
no, that was earlier this year when I said I tried doing. No, I think we talked about it on the show. That I try not to. Try not
bet
to
on your kid's
gamble on.
birthday.
I try not to gamble on the special occasions, right? Because
I do. Yes.
I played DFS and bet all day. My wife was in labor for like 12 hours, and I was playing DFS like for most of that time, and I kind of felt bad after that. So I've tried to, I won. It was a good day. I mean,
That's
DFS,
legendary,
man. It's the hockey DFS is addicting, man. Just cheering for those shots on goal, tweeting at the NHL whenever they don't credit a player with a shot on goal. Hey, watch the tape back. This guy, this time in the second period, there was a shot. Cost me $5,000.
speaking of, before we go though, one of the deep dives I want to do is a deep dive on the most biased rinks around the NHL and the most the tendencies around the NHL, because if you watch a game in Calgary, watch the Flames and Islanders tonight, you will see some shit. You will see some shots that would be shots in 85% of 90% of the arenas in the NHL probably not be counted as shots, because the Calgary people just think they're so savvy. Oh, we know what a shot is. We're from Calgary. Countdown, baby. Like these no, but seriously, like you got like in these smart hockey markets, they think like, oh, that's not a shot. I'm not marking that. It's like, do your fucking job, buddy.
Yeah, there's a universal definition of what a shot is.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
I don't need you gaming the system here to make, no, I think I'm going to make a judgment call here. That shot was from 40 feet. He just lobbed it in. I'm not going to count it as a shot, even though it was directly into the goaltender's chest. And if it was a goal, it would be counted as a shot.
Yes.
Seriously, man, it's 2023, and we have beat writers that guess out starting goaltender information. We've got shot clock people that are just like, I don't think I'm going to mark that one. It's Bush League. That's what it is.
Forget about inflation, global warming. These are the problems we need to deal with. How the shots are recorded at NHL rinks.
I like it.
Put it on the docket. Why not?
All right. Well, thanks for the chat. The chat was lively today. Thought let's keep it up, guys.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who participated in the chat. And again, if you didn't, you can do
Shame
so
on
in
you.
the future by going to our YouTube channel as Edgework. You can subscribe, turn on notifications by clicking the bell. You'll get notified every time that we go live. And if you want to comment, we do see it in real time on the YouTube channel. Unfortunately, we don't see it on Twitter. But again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so as Edgework Show on Twitter, and you can find all the picks that are given out in this on the show in real time on the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as BetStamp. So thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Don, nice little winner yesterday on the Sorrow Steal, and
Robbery,
as he says, it is the year of the poopy pants, Andy. So keep an eye out for those early morning Red Bulls. But thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Greatly appreciate it. Guys, thank you for the insights. As always, fun chat. So thank you very much. And I will see everyone next week.
Go Caps.